These folks got this really cool thing. It's an old store display, and she's going to demonstrate for us. Look what it does. Hi, I'm George the Antique Nomad. Come with me as I wander the country in search of valuable vintage, amazing antiques, and cool collectibles. We'll buy, sell, and trade at antique malls, shops, and shows, estate sales, flea markets, thrift stores, anywhere people go to find really interesting things that just aren't made anymore. So come on, let's go.
Here next to this soybean field along the Missouri River is where Kansas and Nebraska and right over there, Iowa, all meet. Shortly down the road from here is where there is a major flea market out in the middle of nowhere twice a year, and that's where I'm headed. This is the nearby town of White Cloud, Kansas, and White Cloud actually gets credit for starting the flea markets in this area. They have one concurrent with the Sparks Flea Market. There are still flea market dealers here, the few that are open. I'm going to see if I can catch some during my brief time away from Sparks. Most stuff is closed for the day. We're kind of late in the afternoon here, getting close to sundown, but I saw one or two that seemed to still be open. And I am just curious because there is stuff to be found in this little town too. So we'll at least take a look. And if I find anything I really love, then maybe I can come back tomorrow, close an hour early, and get up here to take a look. Here's some neat old pulleys out of barns, old trolleys actually. And they are priced at $55 each. Another thing people like to repurpose. Big old set of drawers for $3.50.
So what you doing?
I'm actually set up down the road, but I wanted to come and see a few things because I got tired of looking at stuff down there.
Oh, well, I didn't seen you recording there. So.
Oh yeah, I do a YouTube channel too, so I like to show cool old stuff and where you find it, and I wanted to make sure White Cloud got mentioned.
Sure, a lot of barns being picked.
Yeah, it looks like actually, but you've got some nice Griswold and Wagner stuff too, I see.
Yes, sir.
Nice number 9 with the upright lettering. That's the big logo, so that's older, and then the small logo here comes later. And it looks like he seasoned these pretty nicely. These muffin pans are pretty neat too. Well, I found a couple of hats here in White Cloud, and these were from Oklahoma originally, or at least that's where they were in the family, but this one's got a New York label on it, which means it was considered fancy at the time, and it's made out of fur. And then this one's got a great feather, so I'm going to pay the guy for these because I think they're pretty neat.
It's damn hard to read, that's what it is.
Yeah.
McGill, MC Gill. I don't know if you
MC Gill, okay, and it's explosion proof,
yeah.
McGill. Explosion proof meaning it's got a double cage so that it can't break the lens even if you drop it. Trouble lights are pretty collectible now. Seems like a thing people like. Nobody, that industrial stuff.
Freaking looked at it. Not as much as a whimper, a sniff.
You know, sometimes when you hang them, you think, oh yeah, that's going to show, and they sort of think it's part of your display. I had the same thing in a mall, and I laid it on the floor and it sold the next week. Okay, so here is a yellow stop sign back when they were that color. $135. They weren't standardized to red in the United States until I believe the 1950s. A bunch of watering cans and galvanized stuff from farms. Very popular around here. Lots of farms around here. Lots of old buildings too. White Cloud is actually part of the Iowa tribe reservation. White Cloud was the name of the chief. This is one of those collapsible carts, but this one is for real kill. $50 on that. You see these around time to time. I like my Canada Dry better. See, only $25 for the old wheel again. And a bunch of pulleys. These are popular out west. I like this one with the star in the middle of it.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Have a good one tomorrow. You too. Thanks.
Watch out for that cow. There's that rainbow bread again. Bunch of old oil cans and some cool signs here.
Thank you.
Keen Cutter, this is $145 because of Keen Cutter. Keen Cutter is pretty desirable, and these would have been for the local hardware stores in all the little towns. So let's take a look. We zero in quickly on this really cool 50s ashtray, which I'll ask them about because I like this kind of stuff. Let me set it out in the sun so you can see the great color. Sometimes these were actually by good pottery companies. Hull Pottery made some of these. A lot of them were made in California. Show this mural real quickly, and in the background you can see just a little bit of the grain elevator, which I think may or may not still be operating. But White Cloud at one time was a fairly important river port. The steamships came up here. You'll see the piggy bank with American Mission to Lepers. There was a leper colony somewhere that they would actually take people to from White Cloud. This was the point of embarkation to the leper colony. White Cloud was named after the local, I believe this was actually an Iowa tribe. We're right near the Iowa border, and I believe the natives here were from the Iowa culture rather than the Kansa culture, which is what Kansas is named for. Here's a little more information about the mural. Apparently Lewis and Clark stopped on their way through here up the Missouri River. There are a lot of variations on the pin to the left. Remember Pearl Harbor, and that's how they would do that. They would stick a pearl or a faux pearl in with the lettering. This is a large one. Usually they're smaller than that. This is probably sterling, judging by her other pieces. Look at this variety. A lot of these are case, and case is a great name to look for.
Most of that stuff is 10 to 15 years old.
Yeah, these are newer ones, and a lot of these were made for collectors so they don't show wear like the old ones, right?
Right. And yeah, I've sold probably 300 or 400 pieces of them.
Oh, I bet. People really like these, and people are still collecting pocket knives. It's one of the most popular categories I find. And yeah, the recent ones are kind of interesting because they do a lot of fun things with the handles, and you know, they're made more for the collector. So, wow, you've got a selection here, that's for sure. I see you've got the Trappers.
The next roll over, those are Shat Morgans, and that was made by Queen, and they're out of business.
Oh yeah, Queen's been out of business for a while. They were one of our good American companies that's gone now. So much of this stuff is made in Pakistan now, and I think that's why people appreciate the old ones. What was the name? I didn't realize Queen.
Shat Morgan.
Shat and Morgan, okay.
That was their premium line. They sold it under the Shat Morgan name.
Interesting. So the premium line for Queen was Shat and Morgan. I didn't realize that.
Yep.
I still have some things to learn about knives myself. Vintage barware is really collectible now, and I wanted to show you guys this set because you don't see these sets too often. This is metal with the bar glasses from about 1950, and it even rolls on the table. It's priced at $90, and I see them sell for about that. It's really cool, and the empty spaces are where you put your bottle of booze. And then it's got the decanters for bourbon, rye, and scotch in the middle, it looks like. Yeah.
They got some of them got wear on them.
Yeah, but that's a really cool piece, and I do a YouTube channel, and younger people are collecting this stuff, so I like showing them the kind of things that are out there. And
yeah.
You know, I hear younger people don't want this stuff, but then I see younger people buying this stuff, so I know that they do.
They do.
Being from out west, I always look for this kind of stuff. It's got the steers on it, and this is Rod's Steakhouse in Williams, Arizona, which was a stop on the way to the Grand Canyon on Route 66 back in the old days. Yeah, it was a Route 66 hangout. And they were made by hotel supply companies. You'll often see double stamps. Wallace is the company that made it, and then this is the company that supplied it, and this is the place that used it. And I think that's cool. I'm going to go ahead and get that from these folks.
Sand irons?
I like them, but I haven't been selling them very well. They're really nice, actually, though. It's a nice pair of cast iron andirons from the 1920s, I'd say. And they've got a nice arts and crafts look. They sell for me up north in the winter time, but it's just too far away for me. Who knows when I'm actually going to get there. But they had some other cool Western stuff. This is Siesta ware, and you'll see a label on here that says genuine walnut. Now the problem is it says hand washing recommended because these would crack with age, and so it's hard to find them in good shape. But it's nice that they've got the centerpiece with the brands, and they actually were offering it for a pretty good price. But I did go ahead and buy this. This is Watt pottery. This one is not marked clearly on the bottom. Some of them are, but anything with the Mexicali look, Western look, I do well with that in my shows out west, and I'm hoping to go west again someday, so I'll take it with me. These folks showed me some really cool stuff. These bins here, they're a little rusted, but they actually were from an old grocery store where you, in the old days, where you served yourself. And it says right there, I-10 Biscuit Company from Memphis, Omaha, Oklahoma City, Clinton, and St. Louis. The biscuits would be stored in the bottom and come by rail or come by truck. And then you open the lid, and this was your storage so that people could help themselves. They've also got this. This is really cool. It's a child-sized chaise lounge, and it's from the Victorian era. It's got the tacking on it. This could have been used as a salesman's sample, because the pushcart peddlers in little towns would go around and show you things that were for sale in a large size. It's too small really for a child. A baby wouldn't be able to stay on it. I guess if you were a really wealthy little girl, maybe it would have been doll furniture, but I do believe this is a salesman's sample, and it's a really pretty piece. They have it priced at $125. I think it's unusual. It seems like a good deal. Here's an old powder horn, and this one is old. You see a lot of reproductions. This is not. It's got the oak leaf and stag on it. And you can see here, because it's got the graduated slots for the different amount of powder depending on what you're putting in your gun. That's a hallmark of a real one. And then they've got a really neat piece of furniture in front, and I'm going to ask if they can demonstrate it for us. They got a bunch of stuff out of an old store somewhere in the Midwest that have been closed for many years, so they have these interesting wire displays, little ice cream table and chairs, stools and such, but the piece of furniture in front here is something really unique. These folks got this really cool thing. It's an old store display, and she's going to demonstrate for us. Look what it does. So this would have been in a bakery, and they would have used it as display. But then when they were making this stuff, show us what they did. So look at that. It folds out into a table. Uh-huh.
And they would have done their bread and baked goods and
all that stuff.
Putting their rolls and pies and everything.
Then they just lay it out flat.
Have it displayed, or
they could do it at an angle or any way they wanted to set it. That is so cool. That's really great, and it's got a tag on the side. It doesn't tell us when it was patented, but it says
applied for.
Patent applied for. And looking at the way that that's made, I'd say this is probably 1890s, maybe 1900. That's really cool. And you got it out of an old store in Iowa?
No, Fairfax, Missouri.
Fairfax, Missouri. Wow.
Yeah. Well, actually, my brother, it came out of his barn. He bought the homestead from the Whitens that owned the mercantile store in Fairfax.
Ah, that is really cool. Well, thank you for showing, because boy, I never run into stuff like this. That is really cool. The Simplex school clock. Every school I had classes in growing up, including college, had those. I'm sure it still works.
All right, see you tomorrow.
Hello there.
Hi.
How much is your old Simplex clock? The one there.
Oh, here? $5.
You have any idea if it works? I realize for $5 you get what you get.
No, I have no idea really.
If you already have everything but the kitchen sink, well, they've got one of those too. Nice old metal enameled pedestal sink. Kohler made in USA. That's one company that's still around. The White Cloud Flea Market has been going for 50 years. They're selling stuff here that would have been brand new back in the era when this first came out. These are industrial loaf pans. Good old milk can with the Butler Manufacturing label on the top. How much is your milk can?
30.
30? This is an old flywheel engine. They have conventions based around these, and a lot of times they have big tractor and flywheel shows that also are antique shows. They belch smoke, they sound like they're missing a bit, but that's how they work. This is how you got portable power back in the old days. And it's really cool that it's been restored and still running. Okay, well, the sun's starting to get low, and I want to get into the rest of the flea market while I can here in White Cloud. But also I wanted to quickly take a break and just ask, if you haven't already subscribed, please click that subscribe button below.
and hit that like bell to be notified of future videos. If you're interested in becoming a member, there's a little video you can see in my playlist about that, or you can hit the link in the description. And now I'm going to go look around and see if we can find some interesting things for you to see. And me too. So I'm going to come over here and take a look at some of these pieces. There's a whole bunch of Hall China's orange poppy from the 1930s. This was another one of their popular patterns back in that day. Very good quality. Hall is now part of Homer Laughlin. They make restaurant china mainly now. This flame orange is a 1970s Francoma piece. This is a bean pot in the Plainsman pattern. They had made this since the 1950s as dinnerware. It helped make them a big company for a long time. But the orange was a 70s color for obvious reasons, and actually it looks really good with the browns and things. Now I'm going to go to the back because I see a Treasure Crafts Sprite, and I don't find many of these in the wild anymore. This one looks pretty dirty inside because he had a plant in him, but he's not damaged and he's $10. You might be able to get that off with CLR, but it's awfully heavy. This was one of the most popular ones at the time, the Sprite on the Boot. I think he came out in 1951. And I show them in my book on treasure craft pottery and pottery craft stoneware. They used Mrs. Stewart's bluing to make sure that the glaze did not apply on the hands and the face, and then they hand painted the face. They hired a lot of mainly Mexican-American women to do the painting of the faces on these guys. This is a company called Dryden Pottery. They always made tourist line pieces for other attractions, so this one says Black Hills, South Dakota, and it's going to be a pre-1955 piece. They've got 22 on that. We're in Kansas, so it'd be more popular here than anywhere. I think these little gals are really cute. These are perfume bottles. If I see a few other things here, I might try to make a bundle. I don't think they're worth a whole lot more than $12 though, so I'd have to get a pretty good deal. Kitty cat teapot. I think this is a later one because it's rather lightweight, later being 1972. Lustra Ware made a lot of that plastic fantastic stuff in the 50s. Shakers and clotheslines that are retractable like this, all sorts of odd little household products. They were cheap and inexpensive at the time, and they're collectible now. That one's $10. The Jadeite Bud Vase, these are never marked Fire King, but they are Fire King. It's one of the first things they made in Jadeite as an experiment, this little vase here. It's priced at $22, that's about the right price for that guy. Lusterware cigarette holders from the 1930s with cats. My mom's a big cat collector. I'm going to do a video about her collection, so you'll see lots of little things like this there. Priced at about $14 a piece. Okay, then on the front table we've got this neat horse weather vane. This looks like it has some age, maybe 1950s or so. Weather vanes are good sellers. People like them as decoration indoors as well as to use outdoors now. An old cigarette tin before they had the plastic wrapped cardboard packages. And then you get into the ones that are specific to interests, like this one's Masonic I see here.
I got a Masonic watch up here too, Scotty.
Oh yeah?
I used to do pocket watches. I've sold over 700 pocket watches.
Oh wow.
That's a Hamilton. It's got the second sweep hand. It's under a dial instead of a hand.
Oh yes, I see that, right. That would have been a feature, what, in maybe the 20s or 30s?
Late 20s, early 30s.
Because that's about the time pocket watches start to get replaced by wristwatches for a lot of people.
It's got Masonic emblem on the back.
Oh, very nice. And that makes it double collectible. So as pocket watches go, this is still a pretty good one. How many jewels?
That's a 17 jewel a day.
17, that's not too bad actually. That's kind of in the middle range. Yeah, it's funny to people when you tell them they had to put rubies in watches to make the good ones back then, and they're like, really? But it all makes sense if you know how they ran. Very cool, thank you. And then Sports Fan Action Styled Sportswear. You know, a lot of these are cheaper ones, but they're fun for the advertising.
Yeah, that's a trick knife there.
Oh, okay, tell me what that means.
Right.
It seems like it won't close all the way.
There.
Oh,
very cool. So you tap it a couple of times to shut it.
You shouldn't have to tap it. You just turn it to normal.
And it does because the rings.
A drop of oil.
Yeah, but the ring actually shuts it. That's neat. What was the idea behind that?
Oh, just something different.
Yeah, it's cool. I like that. How much does that go for? 20 for that? Yeah, that's interesting. And then electrical supply. It seemed like just about everybody and their brother did an advertising piece at one time.
It was a common thing.
Yeah, well, everybody used them, still do. And then let's see, I see a Robeson in here.
Yeah, there's a really good Robeson for the condition.
The Pocket Ease, yeah, that's a nice one. I haven't seen that one too many times. Very cool. Well, you've got a good selection here, and then this one's got the Smith & Wesson mark, but I think someone made that.
That's a later one.
Yeah, I've seen those, and they do seem like they're later. Very cool, though, and some neat handles. Tell me about this shape. I see those, but I honestly always was curious what the idea behind that was.
Were sold on a card in hardware stores. And they were like $1 or $1.89 or something.
Right.
It was an inexpensive knife and most of them, the handles usually got wore off or beat off. To find one with the handle still really nice is kind of unusual.
Yeah, and so it was just a different shape to attract the eye, not for a function.
It was more of an eye appeal thing.
I wondered about that because I couldn't figure out, they didn't seem like they did anything different.
Every kid went to school had one.
That's right. I remember in our school they did it first and then they took them all away. Yep. All the fun was over by the time I was a kid.
I carried a knife all the way through school.
This is the only other dealer I've seen who had a lot of jewelry, and she seems to have primarily Navajo. That's a pretty piece. Next to it is this one that's made of lapis and malachite and looks like cinnabar and onyx and turquoise. And that's a bear fetish. This might be older. Old Pawn is definitely the more valuable of these pieces, all other things aside, although the design and the workmanship and signatures can make some of the new pieces quite valuable as well. And these are sort of a double collectible because it's advertising for Falstaff beer, but it's for the Whiteman Air Force Base Non-Commissioned Officers Club. At $8 each, those did not seem badly priced. I think that is definitely something that would catch someone's fancy. And then we have a neat little sifter here. This one's 12, but it's a floral pattern that you don't see very often. You see the cherries and the apples, but I haven't seen these tulips before very much. This says antique sale. A lot of old glassware and such on the ground. Some old pole lamps. A very dilapidated pair of 1970s chairs. So these two are kids' rifles, and these are from when...
You might want to focus down on the words and you'll be able to search them up on that net.
Yep, that looks good. I'll do that. And this is the Hamilton rifle, 1907 patent date, and this is a single shot 22 for a very small child, because like you said, everybody had to be able to hunt back then.
Well, yeah, if you figure the length of his arm from that trigger to the back, it's pretty short.
Yeah, that's about that's like a little kid.
When you get to the next one, about teenager, then you go for the bigger ones after that, you know.
And this one's a crack shot 26, it said on the barrel.
Yeah, the old crack shot.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, you know, when they get started, they shoot little, then they get up to be the crack shot, you know, and then after that, to get to be the old gunslinger, you know.
Well, you know, it was a tool. You know, people freak out about it now, but that's just, it was part of everyday living. Well, with all the interesting and rubber stamping and scrapbooking there is now, these holders for the rubber stamps are actually something that are useful again. If it's a little more deluxe, that's a pretty cheap price for it. Not quite cheap enough for resale, but then these that just clip in for $10 each. I think I'm going to take one of them because that seems like a good price to me. I really want to show these for just a second because these are Avon bottles. These are the car bottles. And I loved these when I was a kid. My grandmother gave me this one right here when I was a little kid, and I kept it for years and years. They've got it priced at $3, or you can buy all 42 for $40. This is the problem with Avon bottles. They were made by a good company, Wheaton Glass Company out of New Jersey. They made Avon's Cape Cod line. They made good quality glass, so good quality that they never broke, and they were made to be kept. So people used the cologne in them, which mostly wasn't the greatest. And then they kept the bottle, and everybody kept the bottle because they were made to be collected, and that's the problem. There's just so many around that they're just not worth anything. That's the problem with things that are made to be collected new, is everybody gets them and then they hold on to them forever because they were made to be collected. So often it's the stuff that people use day to day and didn't think much about that's valuable now. Okay, and we got one more booth we can look through here real quickly before the sun goes down. You see a lot of Hull pottery priced in the 30s now, and that is about the going rate for those pieces. They used to sell for double that. I think with the return of pink as a decorating color, there's some room for upside on those, especially because Hull, this is the matte glaze. Notice it's not shiny. The gloss glaze is afterwards, but the matte glaze was made before the factory blew up in a flood and fire in 1950. And they could never recreate the glaze, which means they can't reproduce the glaze either, and that's a pretty good thing. Like Roseville, they would mark them very well, so it's item number 6-1, and it's 5.5 inches. Roseville used a similar marking system, so they're very easy to attribute. These other pieces here are Royal Copley. They have the gloss glaze. They were made in a different factory by a different company, but Hull did adopt the gloss glazes after 1950. I was going to say, I wonder what kind of car is this guy's favorite, and then I see that his Ford stuff is leaned up against a Chrysler Pacifica, so I'm a little confused. Hello! But he has a great tent. The Ford Truck Fun Zone. It looks like a fun zone to me. Look at the big Ford sign from the dealership. That would be fun if you had the right space for it. And an old service sign. Well, so much junk, so little time. You can see the rest of the flea market behind me here in White Cloud. There's definitely some more stuff to see. I might be lucky and get back tomorrow and be able to take a look at the rest, but I think this classy chapeau was worth the drive. Thanks for joining me again in the fun and fascinating antique community here where online meets the real world. Please click the subscribe button below. Click the bell to be notified when new videos upload. Leave a comment below and hit thumbs up to like this video. Links to our online social media daily posts and our items for sale are in the description. This is George at The Antique Nomad. Bye for now.